Over more than 2 centuries of history, 47 individuals have held the office of President of the United States. Their leadership, their decisions, and their characters have permanently shaped the American story. This isn't just a list of names and dates, it's the story of a nation told through the leaders who guided it, for better or for worse. We're about to summarize every single U.S. president's legacy down to its most defining achievement or event. From the challenges of founding a nation to the complexities of the modern world, this is the evolution of the American presidency, from the beginning to now. George Washington. After leading the Continental Army to an improbable victory, George Washington was unanimously elected as the nation's first president. His challenge was immense: to define the role of the presidency from scratch. He established crucial traditions, like forming a cabinet of advisors, and voluntarily stepped down after 2 terms, setting a powerful precedent for the peaceful transfer of power that remains a cornerstone of American democracy. John Adams. A key voice for independence, Adams's presidency is largely defined by his navigation of the quasi-war with France. Amid public outrage over the XYZ affair, where French diplomats demanded bribes, Adams skillfully avoided a full-scale war, preserving the young nation's strength. However, his term was also marked by the controversial Alien and Sedition Acts, which restricted immigration and free speech, sparking a fierce debate over national security and individual liberties. He was also the first president to reside in the newly built White House. Thomas Jefferson. As the primary author of the Declaration of Independence, Jefferson's presidency is immortalized by the Louisiana Purchase in 1803. This single act doubled the nation's size, acquiring a vast expanse of territory from France and fueling the dream of westward expansion. To explore this new frontier, he commissioned the historic Lewis and Clark expedition, opening the door to the American West. James Madison. Hailed as the father of the Constitution, James Madison's presidency is remembered for leading the nation through the War of 1812. Provoked by British interference with American shipping and the impressment of its sailors, the conflict was a brutal test for the young country. It included the burning of the White House, but ultimately solidified America's national identity and confirmed its military independence from Britain. James Monroe. Monroe's presidency is defined by the Monroe Doctrine of 1823. This landmark foreign policy was issued as many Latin American nations were achieving independence from Spain. It boldly declared the Americas off-limits to any further European colonization, establishing a new sphere of influence and becoming a cornerstone of U.S. foreign policy for a century. John Quincy Adams. The son of John Adams, his presidency began with a controversial election known as the Corrupt Bargain. His defining legacy as president was his ambitious vision for national infrastructure, a network of roads and canals that laid the groundwork for America's future economic growth. However, he is also remembered for his remarkable post-presidency career in Congress, where he became a relentless and powerful voice against slavery. Andrew Jackson. Known as the People's President, Andrew Jackson's legacy is deeply controversial. He expanded democracy for white men and fought against what he saw as an elitist financial system in the Bank War, vetoing the re-charter of the Second Bank of the United States. But his presidency is also stained by the Indian Removal Act of 1830, which led to the forced relocation of Native American tribes on the tragic Trail of Tears. Martin Van Buren. A key founder of the Democratic Party, Martin Van Buren's presidency was almost immediately consumed by the Panic of 1837, a severe financial crisis that triggered a deep economic depression. His efforts to address the crisis, which included establishing an independent treasury system, were largely seen as ineffective, and he was voted out of office after a single term. William Henry Harrison. Famous for his Tippecanoe and Tyler Too campaign slogan, William Henry Harrison holds the record for the shortest presidency in history, lasting only 31 days. After delivering the longest inaugural address on a cold and wet day, he caught pneumonia. His sudden death was the first time a president died in office and set the crucial constitutional precedent for vice presidential succession. John Tyler. Nicknamed His Accidency, John Tyler was the first vice president to assume the presidency after a president's death, establishing the Tyler precedent. A man without a party after being expelled by the Whigs, his most defining achievement was the annexation of Texas in 1845, a momentous and controversial move that added a massive new state and accelerated the nation's path toward war with Mexico. James K. Polk. A dark horse candidate, James K. Polk's presidency was a masterclass in political efficiency. Driven by the idea of manifest destiny, he pledged to serve only one term and achieved all four of his major goals. He re-established an independent treasury, lowered tariffs, resolved the Oregon boundary dispute with Britain, and led the nation through the Mexican-American War. The war resulted in the U.S. acquiring vast territories that now formed the American Southwest, including California. Zachary Taylor. A celebrated general from the Mexican-American War, Zachary Taylor's brief presidency was dominated by the question of slavery in the newly acquired territories. Despite being a slave owner himself, he took a firm stance against the expansion of slavery, which angered Southern leaders. His presidency was cut short when he died suddenly just 16 months into his term. Millard Fillmore. Taking office after Taylor's unexpected death, Millard Fillmore is remembered for signing the Compromise of 1850. This package of bills was a desperate attempt to preserve the Union by balancing the interests of free and slave states. While it may have postponed a civil war, its inclusion of the deeply controversial Fugitive Slave Act inflamed tensions and only delayed the inevitable conflict. Franklin Pierce. Pierce's presidency is defined by one of the most disastrous pieces of legislation in American history, the Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854. The law allowed settlers in new territories to decide the issue of slavery by popular vote, effectively repealing the Missouri Compromise. This led to violent pro-slavery and anti-slavery clashes in what became known as Bleeding Kansas, pushing the country ever closer to civil war.
James Buchanan. Often ranked by historians as one of the weakest presidents, James Buchanan's presidency was marked by inaction. As Southern states began to secede from the Union following the election of Abraham Lincoln, Buchanan failed to take any decisive action to stop the country from fracturing, leaving the unprecedented crisis of the Civil War to his successor. Abraham Lincoln. Widely regarded as one of the greatest presidents, Abraham Lincoln is remembered for leading the Union through the crucible of the Civil War. His defining legacy is the preservation of the nation and his evolution on the issue of slavery, which culminated in the Emancipation Proclamation. This executive order began the process of ending slavery in the United States. His presidency and his life ended with his tragic assassination just as the war was won. Andrew Johnson. Taking office after Lincoln's assassination, Andrew Johnson oversaw the beginning of the Reconstruction era. A Southerner who clashed with the Republican-controlled Congress, his legacy is defined by his lenient policies toward the South and his resistance to federal protection for the rights of freed slaves. These bitter conflicts ultimately led to him becoming the first U.S. president to be impeached by the House of Representatives. Ulysses S. Grant. The heroic general of the Union Army, President Grant's time in office focused on continuing Reconstruction. His most defining achievement was his aggressive prosecution of the Ku Klux Klan through the Enforcement Acts, which were designed to protect the civil and voting rights of African Americans. However, his efforts were undermined by widespread corruption scandals within his administration, which tarnished his reputation. Rutherford B. Hayes. Hayes won one of the most disputed and controversial elections in American history, which was ultimately decided by the Compromise of 1877. In what many saw as a backroom deal, Hayes was awarded the presidency. In exchange, he agreed to withdraw the last federal troops from the South. This decision effectively ended the era of Reconstruction and abandoned federal efforts to protect the rights of black citizens in the South. James A. Garfield. Garfield served only 200 days in office before he was shot by a disgruntled office seeker and later died from his wounds. His brief time in office was marked by a determined fight against the corrupt patronage system, where government jobs were handed out as political favors. His tragic assassination galvanized public support for reform, leading directly to the modern civil service system. Chester A. Arthur. Chester Arthur ascended to the presidency after Garfield's assassination. Though he was previously seen as a product of the very patronage system Garfield fought against, Arthur surprised the nation. He rose to the occasion and championed civil service reform, signing the landmark Pendleton Civil Service Reform Act in 1883. This act established that federal jobs should be awarded on merit, a tribute to his predecessor's legacy. Grover Cleveland. Grover Cleveland is the only president in U.S. history to serve 2 non-consecutive terms. He was known as a man of integrity who relentlessly fought against government corruption and wasteful spending. He used his veto power more than any president before him, rejecting hundreds of bills he saw as excessive government overreach and cementing his reputation as a guardian of the public treasury.
Benjamin Harrison. The grandson of President William Henry Harrison, his presidency is primarily remembered for signing the Sherman Antitrust Act of 1890. As industrialization led to the rise of massive corporations, this act was the first federal law designed to outlaw monopolistic business practices and promote fair competition. It laid the foundation for future trust-busting and corporate regulation. William McKinley. McKinley's presidency marked America's emergence as a global power. He led the nation to a swift victory in the Spanish-American War, which resulted in the U.S. acquiring its first overseas territories, including Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines.
His presidency, focused on economic growth and overseas expansion, came to a sudden end when he was assassinated in 1901. Theodore Roosevelt. A larger-than-life figure, Theodore Roosevelt came to office after McKinley's assassination. His square deal domestic policy was built on the 3 C's: consumer protection, control of corporations, and conservation. Known as the trust buster for breaking up powerful monopolies, his most enduring legacy is in conservation. He established national parks, forests, and monuments that preserved over 230 million acres of American wilderness for future generations. William Howard Taft. Hand-picked by Roosevelt to be his successor, William Howard Taft is the only person in history to serve as both U.S. President and later Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. As president, he actually broke up more trusts than Roosevelt did. However, his political falling out with his old friend Roosevelt split the Republican Party, ensuring his defeat and paving the way for a Democratic victory in 1912. Woodrow Wilson. An idealist and former academic, Woodrow Wilson led the nation through the turmoil of World War I. His defining vision was his 14 points, a plan for post-war peace that included the creation of a League of Nations to prevent future global conflicts. While the U.S. Senate ultimately rejected American entry into the League, his presidency also saw a major domestic victory, the passage of the 19th Amendment, which finally granted women the right to vote. Warren G. Harding. Harding won the presidency with a promise of a return to normalcy after the upheaval of World War I. However, his administration is now remembered for its widespread corruption, most notably the Teapot Dome scandal. This bribery incident, where a cabinet member leased government oil reserves for personal profit, became a symbol of the corruption within his administration before his sudden death in office. Calvin Coolidge. Known as Silent Cal for his quiet and reserved demeanor, Coolidge took office after Harding's death. He believed in limited government, and his hands-off approach to the economy oversaw the booming prosperity of the Roaring Twenties. Admired for his personal integrity and fiscal restraint, he restored public confidence in the presidency after the Harding scandals. Herbert Hoover. An accomplished engineer and public servant, Herbert Hoover's presidency is forever defined by the stock market crash of 1929 and the subsequent start of the Great Depression. His belief in limited government intervention meant his responses to the economic crisis were widely seen as insufficient. His inability to fix the downturn overshadowed his entire career, and he was overwhelmingly blamed for the nation's suffering.
Franklin D. Roosevelt. The only president elected to 4 terms, FDR led the nation through 2 of its greatest crises, the Great Depression and World War II. His legacy is defined by the New Deal, a massive expansion of government programs that created a social safety net with programs like Social Security and the Civilian Conservation Corps. He projected confidence through his fireside chats and transformed the role of government while leading the U.S. as the arsenal of democracy in the war. Harry S. Truman. Thrust into the presidency upon FDR's death, Truman made the momentous decision to use atomic bombs on Japan to end World War II. His presidency saw the beginning of the Cold War, where he implemented the Truman Doctrine to contain communism. He also launched the Marshall Plan to rebuild post-war Europe and took the courageous step of desegregating the U.S. military.
Dwight D. Eisenhower, a celebrated five-star general and the supreme Allied commander in World War II, Eisenhower presided over a widespread post-war prosperity. His defining domestic achievement was the creation of the interstate highway system, a massive infrastructure project. He also enforced federal law by sending troops to desegregate schools in Little Rock, Arkansas, and in his farewell address famously warned against the growing power of the military-industrial complex. John F. Kennedy. Kennedy's brief, vibrant presidency is often referred to as Camelot. His administration launched the Peace Corps and set the ambitious goal of landing a man on the moon. But his time in office is most defined by the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962, where his steady nerve and skillful handling of the tense standoff with the Soviet Union averted a potential nuclear war. His presidency and the era of optimism he inspired ended tragically with his assassination in 1963. Lyndon G. Johnson. A master of legislative politics, Johnson assumed the presidency after Kennedy's assassination. His defining achievement was the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, a landmark law that outlawed discrimination. This was the centerpiece of his Great Society agenda, which also created Medicare and Medicaid. However, his towering domestic legacy was ultimately overshadowed and crippled by the nation's escalating and divisive involvement in the Vietnam War. Richard Nixon. Nixon's presidency was marked by major foreign policy achievements, including establishing a policy of détente with the Soviet Union and his historic opening of relations with the People's Republic of China. However, his legacy is forever defined by the Watergate scandal. The cover-up of a break-in at the Democratic National Committee headquarters led to a constitutional crisis, and facing certain impeachment, Nixon became the first and only president to resign from office. Gerald Ford. Appointed vice president and then assuming the presidency after Nixon's resignation, Gerald Ford was the only person to serve as president without being elected to either office. His most defining and controversial act was granting a full pardon to Richard Nixon, arguing it was a necessary step to help the country heal from the trauma of Watergate. The decision was deeply unpopular and is widely believed to have cost him the 1976 election.
Jimmy Carter. A former peanut farmer and governor of Georgia, Jimmy Carter made human rights a central pillar of his foreign policy. His greatest achievement was brokering the Camp David Accords, a historic and lasting peace treaty between Israel and Egypt. Though his presidency was hampered by economic stagflation and the Iran hostage crisis, he redefined the post-presidency, founding the Carter Center to promote peace, health, and democracy worldwide. Ronald Reagan. A former actor and charismatic leader, Reagan's presidency is remembered for his conservative economic policies known as Reaganomics, which involved significant tax cuts and deregulation. He took an assertive stance against the Soviet Union, famously challenging it to tear down this wall. His policies are credited with contributing to the end of the Cold War, though his second term was complicated by the Iran-Contra affair, a scandal involving arms sales to Iran to fund rebels in Nicaragua. George H.W. Bush. Bush's presidency was defined by a rapidly changing world order. He skillfully managed the end of the Cold War, overseeing the fall of the Berlin Wall and the dissolution of the Soviet Union.
His defining foreign policy success was assembling a broad international coalition to lead the U.S. to a decisive victory in the Persian Gulf War, also known as Operation Desert Storm, to liberate Kuwait from Iraqi invasion. Bill Clinton. Clinton presided over the longest period of peacetime economic expansion in American history, marked by a balanced budget and welfare reform. However, his presidency was also defined by scandal. Stemming from a lawsuit and his relationship with a White House intern, he was impeached by the House of Representatives on charges of perjury and obstruction of justice. He was acquitted by the Senate and completed his term with high approval ratings. George W. Bush. Bush's presidency was irrevocably defined by the September 11th terrorist attacks. This national tragedy led to the launch of a global war on terror. He ordered the invasion of Afghanistan to overthrow the Taliban and hunt for Al-Qaeda. His administration created the Department of Homeland Security, a massive reorganization of the federal government to protect the nation from future attacks. His presidency also included the controversial 2003 invasion of Iraq. Barack Obama. The first African-American president, Barack Obama took office during a major financial crisis. His defining legislative achievement is the Affordable Care Act of 2010, a sweeping healthcare reform law designed to expand health insurance coverage to millions of Americans. In foreign policy, he formally ended the war in Iraq and authorized the covert operation that resulted in the death of 9/11 mastermind Osama bin Laden.
Donald J. Trump. A real estate mogul and reality television star, Trump's first term was driven by a populist America First agenda. His presidency is remembered for significant tax cuts, renegotiating trade deals, and withdrawing from international agreements like the Paris Climate Accord. A deeply polarizing figure, his term was marked by deep political divisions, constant controversy, and the distinction of being the first president to be impeached twice by the House of Representatives. Joe Biden. Taking office amidst the global COVID-19 pandemic and a deeply divided nation, Joe Biden's presidency is defined by large-scale domestic legislation. This includes the American Rescue Plan to address the economic and health effects of the pandemic, and the Bipartisan Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, a historic investment intended to modernize the nation's roads, bridges, and public transit. Donald J. Trump. In 2025, Donald Trump became only the second U.S. president after Grover Cleveland to win non-consecutive terms. His unique legacy is also defined by his status as the first former president to be convicted of a felony crime following a 2024 trial in New York, where he was found guilty on 34 counts of falsifying business records. His return to power marked an unprecedented chapter in American political history. And there you have it. From the foundational principles of Washington to the turbulent politics of the present day, each president has left a unique and lasting legacy on the course of the United States. Which president's story surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. If you made it through all 47 presidents, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more massive history breakdowns like this one. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned, and we will meet in next video.